curious how many people in the audience have struggled with getting a diagnosis or felt like they were misdiagnosed or overdiagnosed with something or diagnosed without even any data.
Hi, everyone. Are you caught in the revolving door of infections and treatments only to fall sick again? Well, today, Dr. Maggie is going to unveil the strategy to permanently close that door.
I'm actually really tired of seeing people going on this hamster wheel. And it really is a hamster wheel where people will identify an infection, they try to kill it, and it comes back over and over and over again. And today we're going to talk about how do we break this cycle once and for all.
I want to talk about what are some of these common infections that we hear about so often that are so tricky and challenging to
Yeah.
treat and get rid of.
And you guys have all heard the names. So you've heard about Candida, which is a fungal infection. You've heard about Epstein-Barr, a viral infection. You've heard about Lyme. You've heard about SIBO. You've heard about H. pylori. And on top of that, people also get frequent infections like chronic urinary tract infections, chronic ear, nose, and throat infections. Well, first of all, why does this infection come up as such a big hot topic? Well, most of the people we're talking to in the audience, and I'm going to ask you guys to chime in right now. Get ready to go to keyboard and type in. Think about this. If any of you are dealing with any of these diagnoses or symptoms I'm going through, one of the culprits usually is infection. So think about it. Do you have irritable bowel syndrome? Do you have fibromyalgia? Do you have mast cell activation, histamine intolerance? Do you have POTS? Do you have autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's, lichen sclerosis, scleroderma, right? Do you have chronic pain, brain fog, fatigue, right? Any and all of these symptoms, when you go see your conventional regular medical doctor, they don't have a lot of answers. You're lucky if you get a diagnosis, and even if you do, there's very little they can do for you. So many of you, us included, will go seek the help of naturopathic or functional medicine providers. And a lot of times when you go, one of the first things they'll do is do some stool testing, or they'll take a list of your symptoms and be like, aha, you're dealing with an infection. And so how many of you out there, is this ringing a bell? Is this resonating with you? Here's the problem. You get diagnosed with these infections, right? And then you end up going into a series of treatments. So treatments can include antibiotics, antivirals, medications, supplements, IVs, elimination diets. If that worked, great. But the problem is, this is where the hamster wheel gets started. You may get better for a little while, and then it comes back over and over and over again. Hi, I'm Maggie, UMD, and I'm a functional and holistic medicine physician and the creator of the Transform and Transform Protocol. If you're interested in learning what are the root causes of all chronic disease, go ahead and click the link in the description where I have a power pack 30-minute training that goes over what are the 5 pillars of Transform. Go ahead, click the link, and I'll see you in that training. Well, a lot of people think if I get rid of these infections, then my other chronic health symptoms like my mast cell, my chronic pain, my autoimmune disorder, hormonal imbalance, my insomnia could get better. The problem is that as you're circling round and round on this infection, in the kill, repeat, recur, repeat, kill, recur, repeat, recur cycle, the chronic health symptoms that you're still experiencing here don't actually get better, or they might get a little bit better, but the trajectory of that seems to just get worse and worse and worse. So it's almost like there's a hamster wheel going here, and this is just a downward hill trend that is going on this side concurrently. So this is a classic problem that we're seeing right now. And how many of you are actually seeing that? Well, and it costs a fortune to keep treating over and over again. I think about Lyme, and now let's add COVID and long haul into the mix as well, because that's a viral infection that not just infects, let's say, upper respiratory, but we know it causes major shifts and almost an infection in the gut, right? And we have a lot of people with long haul. So that is indeed a fortune to actually go to long haul clinics, Lyme clinics, SIBO clinics, go through these protocols and treatments. Many of these are IV treatments over and over again. And that's where we are at today. Lots of money, lots of time, lots of effort, lots of elimination diets, and people are still sick and getting sick more and more.
Lots of frustration because it's like you said, you're putting so much effort into this, and all you want is a positive outcome here. But unfortunately, it's just not what happens time and time then people are coming to you saying, hey, I've tried to kill this infection half dozen times even, and
Right.
it's still with me, and I'm still experiencing all of these debilitating, in some cases, symptoms that I just can't live with any longer.
Well, and this is how many and most of the individuals that come to us when you're coming to transform, they present with these chronic symptoms or diagnoses, and they have a lot of questions and past experiences, past trauma around infection. And that's why I want to introduce Brandi here, who we've been working with in the past year. Brandi, welcome.
Hello. I'm the
I
poster child. I really
Sure.
am.
Well, I mean, you're typical in a lot of ways of how someone presents at our door. I would love for you to give people a little bit about your background, when this started, who you are, when this started for you. Go for it, Brandi.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm 45. I have a child who just turned 16, and most of my problems did start about 16 years ago, around the time she was born. Um,
Postpartum hormones, everybody.
absolutely.
Take note.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so my health went downhill. And for 10 years, I went to 5 naturopaths, dermatologists, GI doctors, all the things, no answers, and kept getting sicker. And about a year and a half ago, I found a naturopath who gave me some diagnoses and a place to start. But like you say, Maggie, everything she tested me for came back positive, which was strange. So started the treatments, the aggressive medications, the supplements, the IVs, all the things you named. And I just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And that was the path I was on for a good 10 years of fatigue, brain fog, chronic pain, hormonal issues, and no answers.
So you said you about a year ago, I think this is about 2 years ago. You finally found a naturopath. I mean, you had been working with conventional doctors up to that point and being told everything was fine. 15
Mhm.
years, 13 years of this. And then
Yeah.
2 years ago, you finally saw a naturopathic provider and you were diagnosed with a slew of things. What were some of the infections or things you were diagnosed with?
Lyme disease with Bartonella co-infection,
Right?
reactivated Epstein-Barr virus,
Hmm.
um, HHV6, which is another herpes type virus,
Hmm.
recurring SIBO, and she diagnosed me with Hashimoto's. It was the first person who tested my antibodies, so we did discover Hashimoto's there as
And
well.
so an autoimmune disease to boot on top of that.
Yes.
So it's an interesting thing is because I think Brandi, your story highlights sometimes diagnostic difficulties, which means that, you go to your regular doctors all these years, get diagnosed with nothing, and you're getting worse and worse. Yet sometimes you'll go to a naturopath or functional medicine clinic or a doctor and you get diagnosed with 10 things.
Hmm.
And so I think that the hard part in this is that diagnostic testing around some of these infections are really tricky.
Mm.
Depending on how you test, even for something, let's say using Lyme as an example, depending on the kind of lab you do, there could be quite a few people who can test false positive. There's a lot of people we call equivocal. They're like borderline that a lot of people will be calling positive Lyme. So it's an interesting thing. Just Lyme itself is an example of something that can be difficult to diagnose. And even when you go to get training around Lyme and Lyme testing, one doctor will say, this is what I use, and that's the gold standard, but this is what I use. So there's a lot of controversy even around diagnosis. That's just Lyme. When we're
Absolutely.
when we talk about Epstein-Barr, here's the other problem. People with autoimmunity, like Brandi, Hashimoto's, like myself with mixed connective tissue and Hashimoto's, we frequently can, because of our altered immune system, which is very hyperactive, our immune system, instead of attacking germs, is busy trying to attack us, can actually on Epstein-Barr testing read positive for a long time, even if it really isn't active in you. So
Mm.
there's a lot of it's tricky also diagnosing Epstein-Barr virus. And then thirdly, you start talking about Candida and some of these other infections where a lot of doctors will even diagnose you without even doing adequate testing and just say, you look and feel like you have Candida. And we know how important accurate data really is in diagnosing these infections. And yet, people come in with all sorts of various ways of misdiagnosis all the time. So I don't know about you in your case, but I'm curious how many people in the audience have struggled with getting a diagnosis or felt like they were misdiagnosed or overdiagnosed with something or diagnosed without even any data.
Well, I have something I'd like to share, if you don't mind, Maggie, is that it's a double-edged sword because after, 10 plus years of seeking and being sick and trying to heal my body, having someone hand me some diagnoses actually felt like validation and relief. So then
Right?
you think, finally, I know where to look. I know what to do and how to treat. Because to be honest, before this naturopath who went down this path with me, I had been offered a hysterectomy twice by two different gynecologists because that was their solution for
Listen,
my reproductive health issues.
trying to get the
So at
organ.
least this person was going to allow me to keep my, reproductive health organs, and she was going to look somewhere else. And so in a way I was relieved. And then a year into it, the relief turned to overwhelm, anxiety, fear, despair, thinking, oh my gosh, because someone said this earlier, you're right. It cost me, I paid out of pocket for this naturopath for all the tests, for all the appointments, for all the supplements and medications, over $10,000 in a year.
Yeah.
So that did add up quickly
To
So,
stay sick.
to stay sick.
but here's the thing. Let's say you were accurately diagnosed. Many of you out there have been accurately diagnosed and then go through this $10,000, 1 round, 2 round, 3 rounds of treatment over and over again. How many of you had it come back? How many of you had these infections come back over and over again? This is the interesting thing. I think that fundamentally the approach of diagnosing gut infections first and trying to treat and kill infections first over and over again, absolutely to me is the wrong order. It's the wrong order. That's not how we should be approaching these chronic health, chronic disease symptoms when there's infections. To figure out the root cause on how to turn around any chronic disease or symptom, click the link above or below this video to register for the training. We'll see you there.